Okay, let's mix some color. So let's think about what we're doing and what we're working with before we get started. So on our palette, we've got a yellow ochre that's going to be somewhere over here. Quinacridone red, which is somewhere down in here. It's a cooler red. And then we're using our Prussian blue. So we've got kind of a triad. And then our grays, Portland gray light, Portland gray medium, Portland gray deep, and ivory black. So we can use those to adjust our values. And then across the top, we've got yellow ochre, quinacridone red, burnt umber, and Prussian blue. So we can get color or hue this way and check our value this way. Okay, so we have green, dark green trees. Then our ground, yellow-orange base, is going to be our third value. Our sky will be our second value. That's going to be in the purple range. And then our moon will be our lightest light. So, Portland gray light is as light as we can go. So if that's our light, then after that's going to be our sky. And our sky is going to be a second value. Then our ground will be our third value. And our trees will be our darkest. Okay, so the first thing to remember is value, 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 value. Value first. Okay, so what hues are we going into? Well, this is going to be our green. So since this is a moonscape, we don't need necessarily a bright green. So yellow and black will be a good place to start here. Okay, that'll give us that green. Then we've got the ground. Got yellow grass, but the color scheme I'm using here is more of a green, purple, orange. So that's why I'm going to lean this over a little bit into the orange hue. And then this is our third value, so that's going to be down here. Okay, so that gray is a lot stronger influence than I imagined. So let's get a little more pigment here. There we go. Now it's grayed for sure, but it's in our yellow-orange hue now. Okay, so if that would be our ground. Then our second value will be our sky. And remember, the Prussian blue here is so powerful, so it's going to do the smallest little bit of that. A little bit of our red. And the right value. Okay, and I want that a little bit darker, a little bit more colorful. Because in this setup, the moon is going to be by far the lightest thing. So the second value, we're going to drop that just a little bit or darken that up a bit. Okay, and then like we said, the moon. Okay, so at this point, we have a dark green, a third value, land, and sky, and moon. So now let's talk about going back and refining it. Along with the dark trees, we're going to have shadow on the ground, right, or darker ground. So let's take our burnt umber and add a bit of that yellow ochre to it. So if we're talking green, orange, purple, this would be a dark green, that would be a dark orange, right? How we think about it. We're not technically saying orange, we're almost thinking warm, but we want to think in these triads right now. Again, to get you familiar with the color and the color wheels and how that all works. Now watch what happens to the look of this paint as I add just a bit of medium. So it became more workable and it has more of a sheen, right? It doesn't have that dead look. It has more of that alive, fresh look. That's what your medium can do for your oil paints. So this is going to end up being a little bit lighter than this, but I like where we're starting here. I feel like this is too light, so I want to get these a little closer, which means darkening them up. And at the same time, I'm going to add a little luster to this color. I like big enough piles so that I can see. It's not, right? It's really hard to judge the value and everything on a mark that small. Make sure you have enough paint and big enough piles. In the same way, let's scoot that down a little bit value-wise. I'd like to have a slightly more purple. I wanted a gray purple for sure. Just get a little bit of warmth in that sky. I'll drop it down. And since I want it a little bit darker, I'm going to go down to this next, basically that gray, and add just a touch of it in here. There we go. That paint's really stiff. It doesn't feel very good. So a little medium. And there, it moves much easier. It's not resisting. Okay. And then we'll leave this here so that'll be nice and bright against the sky. So that's the basics of our color. So now let's go into some of the more subtle things I was telling you about temperature. For instance, what if you wanted your moon a little bit warm? Right? So you got a cool. You got cool here. You have warm over there. So what would warm that up? Well, yellow or yellow and red orange would do it, right? So let's take just a bit of yellow. Just a touch of red. Let's make sure the paint feels good. Right, and how subtle or vibrant you wanted that moon would be up to you. Sometimes a better question is to ask rather than how much can I do. You can ask how little will it take. Okay, so there's nice. Warmed it up just a bit, so we've got a warm and a cool there. In the sky, I would actually like to see it go a little darker and more purple, and then it'll come back to a little bluer, and then go down to slightly greener, basically getting closer to that color as we get down to the horizon. So if we modified that color to be 3 instead of 1, what would that look like? I didn't quite get enough paint here to start subdividing it, so let's just mix a little more. Remember, we want it a little bit warm. There's going to be some purple, which is red and blue. And remember, this blue is super strong, so we don't get too carried away with that. Okay. If we go a little darker up there, a little lighter and warmer down there. So lighter, warmer, which will do what? Which will take this pile and get it closer to there. Just take a touch of this. Too much, just a little bit. Okay, and as we get to the horizon, I want to go slightly slightly lighter. So get a little bit of the one above, just pull it up a little bit. Okay. There we go. Just want that warm feeling down towards the surface. The sky down towards the surface. And then that would be a nice, easy transition, right? And then what would that be if it was a little more purple? So there's a little more red in it. We want it a little darker. There we go, something like that. So then the sky will go towards more purple, kind of a grayer, bluer, to a little warmer, more yellow. I hope that's picking up on the camera. And then our ground, you know, what is kind of dark or richer to light or grayer look like, which is what we did in the sky. So what would a little darker, richer there be? Well, what if we took our, let's pull over to the side here for a second. Okay. So this actually looks a little better value for my red right here. So if that was a tree trunk, and the grass at the base of the tree trunk might come to there, right, which is going to lay next to this, so we can see how that, there's a slight difference there. So dark, and then let's take a little bit richer and just a touch of red in there. There we go. Again, I hope that's picking up on film. This is darker, richer, lighter, grayer. And again, it's a pretty tight thing there. And then how would we gray that off into the distance? Well, one of the things we could do is it's going to be approaching this at the mountains, right? So take a little bit of your sky there, and then take a little bit of this, and pull those pieces closer together. Okay, so what do we have? We have our front tree, we have the trunk of the tree, down to the grass and shadow, the darker, richer grass up front, a little lighter, grayer in the middle ground, and even lighter and grayer as we go back and towards the mountains. And then the sky is way, way back there, so that's lightest, grayest. And as we go up in the sky, it's going to get a little cleaner blue. And then the very top can get a little more purple. Okay, so I hope that makes sense of how we go from our 4 values, and then we get them into the right hue, green, orange. Yeah, believe it or not, I'm calling this orange, right? It's really gray, and so it almost looks brown, but green, orange, purple, right? Our scheme. We're not talking bright on each one, but this is how that would look. So we have our tree standing up. We have the tree trunk shining through in the foreground. We have our grass in shadow, our grass in light up front, middle ground, background, sky at the horizon, rising to the middle of the sky, and the top of the sky, and then the moon. Okay, so I can continue to adjust this. If I need this even grayer or that even closer together, it's pretty simple. I just take more of this and get it in there. You know, how close do we want it? We can have those mountains whisper quiet next to that sky. Whisper quiet. And then the same for the impression of the moon. All right, that's a pretty good jump right there. That's going to be a nice glowing moon in that sky. Okay, so a quick review. Value first. Get it to the right hue. And then you can adjust some of the darker, richer to lighter, grayer. Right here, how would that get lighter, grayer? Well, again, you could simply get this next level gray and gray it that way. Or you could get some of the sky color and gray it that way. So let's see. If we took a little bit of this, so this is the same thing. And we'll do one with sky. And we'll do one with gray, and let's see the difference. So what I'm trying to do is get to that second tree back there. Just making this green a little bit weaker, so it shows the effect of going through atmosphere. Okay, so that was with our gray, and then with some of our sky. Not that much difference. Very hard to tell, but that has a little more chroma than that does. This still stayed relatively dark. Okay, so those are two ways you can gray things out as they go back in the distance. Is you can literally use your grays, or you can use, right, this is the furthest back there, the sky, so it's kind of going through sky in essence. Okay, I think that's about it for me. From here, I would take it and put it on the canvas, and then again, that's where the rubber meets the road, where it's the real deal. It works or it's not. Don't stick to your guns here. You want to stick to your guns in keeping the values in order, but again, that is always judged by how those values look on your canvas. All right, I hope this helped you guys out. I hope you got your color study done. If not, hop to it. Get those things in by Wednesday. And we'll see you Friday morning for Friday feedback.